The lower engineering deck of the Celestial Dawn smelled like burnt metal and recycled air. Jinwoo wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, leaving a streak of grease across his skin. He was elbow deep in the coolant system, trying to patch a leak that had been getting worse for 3 days. The ship's maintenance budget was tight, and the captain wanted him to fix it without ordering new parts. This will hold for maybe 2 weeks, Jinwoo muttered to himself. Applying the sealant with careful precision, his hands moved with practiced efficiency, the kind that came from doing the same job hundreds of times. The sound of boots on metal grating made him look up. Ha-Young stood at the entrance to the maintenance corridor, her forearms crossed over her chitinous chest. The Xylothon officer looked down at him with the same expression she always wore: disgust, mixed with boredom. Her compound eyes reflected the dim emergency lighting, making her appear even more intimidating. "You are working outside standard hours," Ha-Young said, her translator rendering her clicking language into flat, emotionless words. "Is this authorized?" Jinwoo straightened up slowly, his knees protesting after an hour of crouching. "The leak won't wait for standard hours. If this ruptures during a jump, we'll lose half the coolant system. The engines would overheat in minutes." Ha-Young stepped closer, examining his work with obvious skepticism. "You have bypassed 3 safety protocols. I can see the override codes on the terminal, because the safety protocols would have locked me out while the system was pressurized," Jinwoo explained, keeping his voice calm and respectful. "I followed the emergency maintenance procedure from the manual silence." Hyung interrupted. "You humans always have excuses. Your species is soft, meant only for simple labor. Yet you constantly overstep your position." She tapped something on her wrist communicator. "I am filing a report with Captain Sora. You will be restricted to supervised work only." Jinwoo felt frustration rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry wouldn't help. "Officer Ha-Young, please. This repair is critical. If you file that report now, they'll have to shut down this entire section for a full inspection. That means 3 days without secondary power to the living quarters." "Not my concern," Ha-Young said, turning to leave. "A mechanic should know his place." Before she could exit, another figure appeared in the corridor. Taemin, the senior human engineer, was a man in his 60s, with kind eyes and graying hair. He held up a data pad, already scrolling through something. "Officer Ha-Young, I authorize this repair," Taemin said quickly. "The work order is in the system, filed yesterday." Jinwoo was following my direct instructions. Jinwoo's mandibles clicked together, a sign of irritation. "Then you both violated protocol. The regulations are clear." "The regulations also say that critical repairs take precedence over standard procedures in emergency situations," Taemin countered, his voice gentle but firm. "This qualified as an emergency. The coolant pressure has been in the red zone since this morning." For a long moment, Ha-Young stared at both humans. Jinwoo could see the calculations happening behind those alien eyes. She wanted to punish them, but Taemin had technically covered their actions within the rules. "You are fortunate," Ha-Young finally said, "but I will be watching you both. The next violation will not be excused." She turned sharply and walked away, her boots echoing down the corridor. Once she was gone, Taemin let out a long breath. "You need to be more careful, Jinwoo. She's been looking for a reason to get you kicked off this ship for months." "I know," Jinwoo said, returning to his work, "but I can't let the ship fall apart just because she doesn't like humans." Taemin sat down on a nearby toolbox, watching the younger man work. "It's more than that. Xylothans have a strict hierarchy. Warriors at the top, workers at the bottom. To her, you're basically the lowest thing on this ship, a human mechanic. It offends her that you're even here." Jinwoo didn't respond. His hands continued their work, securing the final seal on the coolant line. After a moment, Taemin spoke again, his voice softer. "You know, you don't have to hide here forever, Capt." He stopped himself, glancing around to make sure they were alone. "Jinwoo, what happened wasn't your fault." "Don't," Jinwoo said quietly. "Please don't." Taemin nodded and stood up. "All right, but remember, some of us know who you really are. What you've done, and we're grateful to have you here, no matter what Haiyang thinks. After Taiman left, Ginwu finished the repair in silence. He tested the pressure, checked the seals twice, and logged the work in the maintenance system. Everything by the book. Everything proper. But as he cleaned his tools and prepared to head back to his quarters, his reflection caught his eye in a polished metal panel. For just a moment, he didn't see the mechanic in greasy coveralls. He saw something else, someone else. The scars on his hands weren't from tool work. The one on his neck wasn't from an industrial accident. The way he'd positioned himself during the conversation with Haiyang, keeping his back to the wall and his eyes on the exit. That wasn't normal behavior for a civilian. Ginwu closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "I'm a mechanic," he whispered to himself. "Just a mechanic. That's all I need to be." He gathered his tools and headed toward his quarters. The Celestial Dawn was a big ship, carrying over 2,000 people from a dozen different species. It was easy to disappear here, to be just another face in the crowd. That's what he wanted. That's what he needed. But as he walked through the dim corridors, part of him knew the truth. The past had a way of catching up, no matter how far you ran. And the way Haiyang looked at him, with such contempt and dismissal, it made something cold settle in his stomach. Not anger, not resentment, recognition. Because once upon a time, enemies had looked at him exactly the same way. They had dismissed him as insignificant, as beneath their notice. As no real threat, they had learned differently. Ginwu shook his head, pushing those thoughts away. That was old life. That was a different person. He was just a mechanic now, fixing pipes and maintaining systems. That was enough. That had to be enough. The ship hummed around him. A massive vessel carrying all these different lives through the darkness of space. And somewhere in its mechanical heart, Ginwu found comfort in the simple work of keeping things running. Tools didn't judge you. Machines didn't care about your past. You fixed them, and they worked. It was simple. It was peaceful. It was enough, at least. That's what he told himself as he finally reached his small quarters and collapsed onto his bunk, too tired to even remove his work boots. The alarm woke Ginwu from a deep sleep. Not the regular maintenance alarm, but the emergency klaxon that meant real danger. He was on his feet and pulling on his boots before his mind fully caught up with his body. Old training died hard. The ship's intercom crackled to life. Captain Sora's crystalline voice echoed through the corridors. "All personnel to stations. We are responding to a distress call. Security teams prepare for possible hostile contact." Ginwu grabbed his tool belt and headed for engineering. The corridors were full of people moving with controlled urgency. He passed a group of Velkari traders, their crystal bodies pulsing with nervous light. A family of Drexel colonists hurried toward the safe rooms, their children clutching stuffed toys when he reached engineering. Taiman was already there, bringing up system diagnostics on the main console. "Colony ship called for help," the older man said without looking up. "Captain wants to assist." Haiyang advised against it. "Why would she advise against helping?" Ginwu asked, moving to his workstation. "Says it could be a trap. Pirates have been active in this sector." Taiman glanced at him. She was overruled. Ginwu felt something cold settle in his gut. He trusted that feeling. It had kept him alive more times than he could count. She might be right. It's too late now. We're already adjusting course. The next 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Ginwu monitored the power systems, making sure everything was running smoothly. The Celestial Dawn dropped out of faster than light. Travel near the coordinates of the distress call. That's when everything went wrong. The pirates came from 3 directions at once, their ships emerging from behind debris fields and dead satellites. The Celestial Dawn shuddered as weapons fire hammered against its shields. Ginwu grabbed the edge of his console to steady himself. "Boarding craft detected," someone shouted over the intercom. "Multiple breach points." Taiman pulled up a schematic of the ship. Red indicators blossomed across the display, showing where the pirates were cutting through the hull. They're going for cargo holds and the bridge. Smart. They want the valuables and control. What about us? Ginwu asked. Engineering is marked as low priority. Amin looked worried. Young's security teams are focused on the main breach points. We're on our own down here. Ginwoo moved to the weapons locker in the corner of engineering. It held 3 shock sticks and a single outdated plasma pistol. Not much. He checked the pistols, charged 30%. Enough for maybe 6 shots. Jinwoo, what are you doing? Taemin asked. Getting ready? Jinwoo's voice was calm, but something had changed in his posture. He stood differently now, weight balanced, eyes scanning the room with methodical precision. The other engineers in the room, 5 of them from various species, clustered together near the back wall. They looked terrified. Ginwoo walked over to them, his expression softening. Listen to me carefully, he said. When they come through that door, I need you all to hide behind the coolant tanks. Stay low, stay quiet. No matter what you hear, don't come out until I tell you it's safe. Understand? A young Drexel woman with blue scales nodded, her voice shaking. What about you? I'll handle it. Ginwoo checked the plasma pistol one more time, then set it aside. Instead, he picked up a heavy torque wrench from his workbench. Taemin grabbed his arm. Jinwoo, there could be a dozen of them. You can't, I can, Jinwoo said quietly. Trust me. Get everyone hidden, now. Something in his tone made Taemin stop arguing. He ushered the other engineers toward the hiding spot. Jinwoo watched them go, then turned toward the main entrance. He could hear the cutting torches now, the sound of metal being sliced through. They were almost inside. Ginwoo closed his eyes and took 3 slow breaths. In his mind, he was back in another place, another time. Hydra Station. Week 4 of the siege. Ammunition running low, half his team dead, and the enemy still coming. He remembered the choice he'd made that date to stop fighting like a soldier and start fighting like something else. Something more primal. More efficient. The door exploded inward. Smoke filled the room. Through it came the pirates, 6 of them, wearing mismatched armor and carrying weapons that had seen better days. They were Vriktar, a species known for aggression and opportunism. The leader, taller than the others, raised a plasma rifle. Everyone on the ground? The leader shouted in broken common tongue. We take cargo, you live. Fight, you die. Ginwoo stood in the center of the room, the torque wrench hanging loosely in his hand. He looked small, insignificant. Just a mechanic in greasy coveralls. The leader laughed. You want to be hero, human? Stupid. He gestured to 2 of his crew. Kill him quick. The first pirate rushed forward with a vibra knife. Ginwoo moved. What happened next took less than 3 seconds. Jinwoo sidestepped the knife thrust, using the pirate's momentum against him. The torque wrench came up in a tight arc, connecting with the pirate's elbow. The joint shattered with an audible crack. As the pirate screamed and dropped his knife, Jinwoo caught the weapon in midair and drove it into the second pirate's weapon hand. Disarming him, the torque wrench became a blur. Ginwoo moved through the remaining pirates like water flowing around rocks. Every movement was precise, economical, brutal. He struck joints, pressure points, weak spots in armor. The plasma rifle discharged into the ceiling as its owner went down, clutching a broken arm. Another pirate tried to tackle him and ended up face first on the deck with Jinwoo's knee on his spine. In less than 2 minutes, all 6 pirates were on the ground. Some unconscious, others groaning in pain. Jinwoo stood among them, breathing steadily, the torque wrench still in his hand. There wasn't a scratch on him. The door burst open again. Young stormed in with 4 security officers, weapons drawn. She stopped dead, staring at the scene before her. Jin-Woo calmly set down the torque wrench and picked up a plasma cutter from his tool bench. He walked over to Young and held it out to her. You'll need this for the breach on Deck 7, he said. They cut through near the fuel lines. If you don't seal it soon, you'll have a decompression problem. Young's mandibles hung open. Her compound eyes shifted between Jinwoo and the pile of unconscious pirates. How did you? The leak is on Deck 7, Jinwoo repeated patiently. You should hurry. One of her security officers was already checking the pirates, securing their weapons. He looked up at Young with confusion. Ma'am, these are all non-lethal takedowns? Precise disabling strikes. This is military-level combat training. Ginwoo walked back to his workstation and began checking the systems, as if nothing unusual had happened. Behind the coolant tanks, the other engineers emerged slowly, their faces showing shock and awe. Hae-young continued to stare. Then, without a word, she turned and left, her security team dragging the pirates with them. Tae-min approached Ginwoo cautiously. That was nothing, Jinwoo interrupted. Just protecting the ship. Now let's make sure those breaches didn't damage any critical systems. But as he worked, Ginwoo could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on him. The secret he'd tried so hard to bury had just started clawing its way to the surface. Hae-young hadn't slept since the attack. She sat in her office, surrounded by holographic displays showing Ginwoo's personnel file. The more she looked, the less sense it made. His employment records with the Celestial Dawn went back 3 years. Before that, nothing. His identification papers were valid. She'd checked them 6 times, but they were generic. Too generic. Place of birth? New Soul Colony. Education? Basic technical certification. Previous employment? None listed. No family contacts. No emergency contacts. No social media presence across any human networks. It was the profile of someone who wanted to disappear. She pulled up the security footage. It's from the engineering bay again. Watching in slow motion as Jinwoo dismantled 6 armed pirates. The way he moved wasn't self-defense. It was combat doctrine. Every strike had purpose. Every movement minimized exposure and maximized efficiency. She'd seen similar techniques from elite military units. But those soldiers trained for years to reach that level. Jinwoo had worked as a mechanic for 3 years. Before that, according to his file, he was nobody. It didn't add up. Hae-young sent a query to the Human Stellar Authority's military database. Access denied. She tried the diplomatic channels. Access denied. Finally, she used her Xylothon military credentials to access the interspecies security network. The response came back in seconds. Jinwoo Park, civilian contractor, no military. But someone had flagged her query. An hour later, she received a message from a human government official she'd never heard of. The message was brief. Drop this inquiry. For your own safety and the safety of your ship. That only made her more determined the next day. Hae-young found Jinwoo in the mess hall during the mid-shift meal period. He sat alone, eating synthesized protein and vegetables, reading something on a datapad. Just another mechanic taking his break. She sat down across from him without asking permission. Several crew members at nearby tables went quiet, sensing confrontation. You are not a mechanic, Hae-young said loudly enough for others to hear. Jin-Woo looked up from his datapad. His expression was neutral, almost bored. I fix things. That makes me a mechanic. You're a soldier. A killer. She leaned forward. I have seen the security footage 20 times. No civilian moves like that. No one with only basic technical training defeats 6 armed pirates without taking a single wound. Ginwoo set down his fork carefully. Officer Hae-young, I defended myself and my colleagues. That's all. That is not all. Her voice rose. You are hiding something. Your records are false. Your background is fabricated. Tell me the truth. Who are you really? The mess hall had gone completely silent now. Everyone was watching. Jinwoo seemed aware of the attention, and something flashed across his face. Discomfort, maybe embarrassment. I'm whoever I need to be to survive, he said quietly. Just like everyone else on this ship, that is not an answer. Jinwoo stood up, picking up his tray. It's the only answer you're getting. Excuse me, I have a shift to finish. As he walked away, Hae-young felt rage boiling inside her. How dare this human dismiss her? She was a decorated officer, a warrior of the Xylothon Imperium. She deserved answers. Before she could follow him, a hand touched her shoulder. Tae-min stood there, his expression serious. Can we talk? The older human asked. Privately? In Hae-young's office, Tae-min sat down without being invited. He looked tired, older than his years. I know what you're trying to do, he began, and I'm asking you to stop. You know what he is, Hae Young said. It wasn't a question. Taemin nodded slowly. I know what he was. What he's trying not to be anymore? Explain. Ginwoo is ex-military. Human Special Forces. He served during a conflict most species don't know about because both sides agreed to bury it. Something happened during his last mission. Something bad. He doesn't talk about it, but whatever it was, it broke something inside him. Taemin met her eyes. When he came to this ship 3 years ago, he was barely functional. Nightmares every night. Couldn't be around weapons without his hands shaking. He wanted to be. As far from violence as possible, so he became a mechanic, Young said. He found purpose in fixing things instead of breaking them. It helped him heal. Taemin's voice was pleading now. Please, Officer Hae Young. Let him have his peace. He's not a threat to anyone. Hae Young considered this. Part of her wanted to accept it and move on. But another part, the warrior part, needed to know the full truth. What was his unit? What conflict? I don't know the details. He won't tell me. Taemin stood up to leave. All I know is that whatever he did, it was bad enough that the human government wanted him to disappear. They gave him a new identity and sent him away. And he accepted it gratefully, because he wanted to disappear too. After Taemin left, Hae Young sat in silence. She should let it go. She knew that. But something about this mystery aided her. In Xylothon culture, warriors were proud of their service. They wore their scars openly. The idea of a soldier so skilled hiding his past, pretending to be a simple worker, was offensive to everything she believed. 3 days passed. The celestial dawn continued its route, and the crew began to recover from the pirate attack. Ginwoo returned to his normal routine, working in engineering, keeping to himself. Hae Young watched him from a distance, trying to reconcile the quiet mechanic with the deadly warrior she'd seen on that security footage. Then the pirates came back. This time, there were 3 ships instead of 1. They surrounded the Celestial Dawn and broadcast a message that every crew member heard. Surrender immediately. We want the human who killed our boarding party. Give him to us, and the rest of you can live. Captain Sora called an emergency meeting in the bridge. Hae Young stood beside her, along with the department heads. Jinwoo was there too, standing in the back, his expression unreadable. They've disabled our engines, Sora said, her crystalline body flickering with stress. We can't jump away. We can't outrun them. How many pirates? One of the cargo officers asked. At least 40 based on the ship sizes, Hae Young answered. Maybe more. My security team is 12 strong. We're outnumbered and outgunned. What if we give them what they want? Someone suggested quietly. The human. Just one person versus everyone else on the ship? Several heads turned toward Jinwoo. He didn't react, didn't speak. Captain Sora's body flashed danger. We do not abandon our crew. Ever. I would rather die fighting than surrender anyone to those criminals. Then we will die, Hae Young said bluntly. I have run the scenarios. We cannot win. Maybe we can. Everyone turned. Jinwoo had finally spoken. He stepped forward from the back of the room. Captain, I need access to the armory. I need 10 volunteers, and I need 1 hour. Hae Young's mandibles clicked in disbelief. You think you can defeat 40 pirates with 10 crew members? Jinwoo looked directly at her. For the first time since she'd known him, his eyes were completely clear, completely focused. The uncertainty was gone. In its place was something cold and sharp. Yes, he said simply. I can. This is insane, Hae Young protested. Captain, he is one mechanic with delusions. Let him try, Sora interrupted. She studied Jinwoo with her crystalline eyes, which could see spectrums of light invisible to most species. Whatever she saw in him made her decide. You have your hour, and your volunteers. Make it count. Jinwoo nodded once. I will. As the meeting broke up, Hae Young grabbed Jinwoo's arm. You will get people killed. He pulled his arm free gently. No, I'll get us all home alive. That's what I do. What you do. You are a mechanic. Jinwoo smiled, but there was no humor in it. Not today.
Oh,
The armory of the Celestial Dawn wasn't impressive. A dozen shock rifles, some plasma pistols, and protective vests that had seen better days. Jinwoo moved through the weapons with quick efficiency, checking charges and testing mechanisms. His 10 volunteers stood around him, nervous and uncertain. They were a mixed group. 2 of Haeyoung's security officers, a Drexel named Buar and a human named Sungmin. 3 cargo handlers who had military experience from their homeworlds, 2 engineers who wanted to fight, and 3 civilians who simply refused to hide while others fought for them. Haeyoung stood in the doorway, watching. She'd insisted on observing the briefing. Jin-Woo looked up from the weapons table. When he spoke, his voice had changed. It was calm, clear, and carried an authority that made everyone stand straighter. "First, I need to know what you're afraid of," he said. Not embarrassed. Actually afraid. You. He pointed at Biora, the Drexel security officer. She blinked in surprise. I'm afraid of letting down my crew. Of failing, Jinwoo nodded. Good fear. Keeps you focused. He pointed to Sungmin. You. Dying before I get home to my son, the human answered. Then we make sure you get home. Jinwoo went around the circle, asking each person the same question. By the time he finished, they weren't strangers anymore. They were people with families, hopes, fears, a unit. Now listen carefully, Jinwoo said, pulling up a holographic schematic of the ship. The pirates expect us to defend choke points. They expect us to fight like scared civilians. We're not going to do that. We're going to attack. One of the cargo handlers, a massive creature from a high-gravity world, rumbled a question. Attack. There are 40 of them. 40 enemies who think they've already won, Jinwoo corrected. He manipulated the hologram, highlighting specific areas. They're using 3 boarding craft attached to our hull. Their plan is simple breach. Overwhelm, take control. It works because most merchant vessels surrender. We're a merchant vessel, Haeyoung said from the doorway. Jinwoo glanced at her. No, right now, we're a warship. And these are our battle stations. He turned back to the hologram. Phase 1, we vent atmosphere in sections B through D. The pirates wear pressure suits with limited air supplies. We make them burn through it. That will damage the ship, one of the engineers protested. Ship can be repaired. Dead crew can't. Jinwoo highlighted another section. Phase 2, we sabotage their boarding craft. Without them, they can't retreat. Without retreat, people panic. Panicked enemies make mistakes. He pulled up a different display showing power conduits and environmental controls. Phase 3, we turn the ship itself into a weapon. Gravity manipulation, electrical overloads, explosive decompression. This is our home. We know every corridor, every system. They don't. Haeyoung stepped forward. This plan. She paused, studying the tactical overlay. This is sophisticated military doctrine. Where did a mechanic learn this? Jinwoo didn't answer the question. Instead, he began assigning positions to each volunteer, explaining their specific roles with precise detail. He knew weapon systems he'd never trained on. He understood the ship's layout better than people who'd worked there for years. And he spoke with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. As the briefing continued, Haeyoung felt something shift in her understanding. This wasn't a mechanic pretending to be a soldier. This was a soldier who'd been pretending to be a mechanic. The difference was profound. Questions? Jinwoo asked after finishing the briefing. Biora raised her hand hesitantly. What if this doesn't work? Jinwoo looked at each person in turn. Then I adapt. I improvise. And I get you home anyway. That's a promise. The simplicity of his answer, the absolute certainty in his voice, seemed to settle something in the group. They weren't confident, but they trusted him. Haeyoung could see it in their body language. One more thing, Jinwoo said. If you see me do something that looks crazy, don't question it. Don't hesitate. Just trust that I have a reason. Can you do that? They all nodded, double quotes. Good. Let's move. The attack began exactly as Jinwoo planned. Atmosphere vented from 3 sections simultaneously, catching the pirates off guard. Their pressure suits' emergency seals activated, but Jinwoo had calculated the air consumption rates. They had maybe 30 minutes before they'd need to retreat. His team moved through the corridors like ghosts. Jinwoo led from the front, using hand signals that even Hae Young-hoo had insisted on joining despite his protests recognized as military standard. They reached the first boarding craft in 8 minutes. "Seungmin Bora, you're with me?" Jinwoo whispered. "Everyone else, cover positions, like we discussed." The 3 of them approached the boarding craft's airlock. Pirates were inside, using it as a staging area. Through the small window, Hae Young could see at least 8 of them. Armed and armored, Jinwoo pulled out what looked like a standard maintenance tablet. He connected it to the airlock control panel and his fingers flew across the screen. "Hae Young, when this door opens, I need you to throw this through." He handed her a small device. "What is it?" "Electromagnetic pulse grenade. It'll disable their equipment for about 30 seconds. "Where did you get I made it yesterday from parts and engineering?" said calmly, as if building military-grade weapons was normal. "On my mark, 3, 2, 1, mark." The airlock hissed open. Hae Young threw the device. It detonated with a blue flash that made all 4 of her eyes hurt. Jinwoo was already moving, diving through the door with a plasma pistol in each hand. What followed was violence of a kind Hae Young had rarely seen. Jinwoo moved through the confined space with brutal efficiency. He targeted weapons first, disabling them with precise shots. Then joints, limbs, anything that would stop an enemy without killing them. In 15 seconds, all 8 pirates were down. "Seal the door," Jinwoo ordered. He moved to the boarding craft's control panel. "I'm locking it from the inside. They can't get back to their ship now." "How did you know how to operate their systems?" Hae Young asked. "Richter ships use modified Heron drive cores. Standard configuration." Said it like everyone should know that. They repeated the process at the second and third boarding craft. Each time, Jinwoo's tactics changed slightly, adapting to the situation. At the second craft, he used the ship's fire suppression system to flood the area with foam, blinding the pirates before attacking. At the third, he overloaded a power conduit, creating an electrical barrier that forced the pirates into a kill zone. By the time they reached the main group of pirates, ones who'd already boarded and were trying to reach the bridge, Jinwoo's team had cut their numbers by half and destroyed all their escape routes. That's when one of the pirate commanders saw Jinwoo and froze. The alien's face went through several colors, none of them healthy. "No," the commander whispered. "You're dead." The ghost of Hydra Station died with his unit. Hae Young's compound eyes widened. She'd heard of Hydra Station, a minor battle 6 years ago barely mentioned in military reports. But the way the pirate commander said the name, with such raw terror, suggested something else entirely. Jinwoo's expression didn't change. "You have 2 choices. Surrender now, or I continue what I started." The commander looked at his remaining crew, then back at Jinwoo. Whatever he saw in the human's eyes made his decision. Retreat. Fall back to the ships. But Jinwoo had already disabled their ships. The pirates ran anyway, desperate to get away from him. They didn't stop running until they were trapped in a cargo bay, surrounded by Jinwoo's team. The battle was over in 45 minutes. No one on Jinwoo's team had suffered more than minor injuries. The pirates were either unconscious or surrendering. Hae Young stood in the cargo bay, watching Jinwoo check on each of his volunteers, making sure they were okay. He moved among them with genuine care, congratulating them, ensuring they'd made it home safely like he'd promised. "The ghost of Hydra Station," Hae Young said quietly when he reached her. "What does that mean?" Jinwoo looked at her for a long moment. "It means I used to be someone else. Someone I'm not proud of." "That pirate was terrified of you." "Not just afraid, terrified." "Yes. Why?" Jinwoo started walking toward the exit, and Hae Young followed. "Because I did terrible things to keep my people alive. Because I became something monstrous to fight monsters. And because when it was over, I realized I didn't know how to be human anymore. He stopped and turned to face her. That's why I'm a mechanic, Officer Hae-young. Because fixing things helps me remember that not everything has to be destroyed. Captain Sora's office was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jinwoo sat in a chair that was too small for him, still wearing his greasy coveralls. Hae-young stood by the door, her forearms crossed. Taemin occupied another chair, looking older and more tired than usual. I think we deserve the truth now, Sora said. Her crystalline body pulsed with a soft blue-like curiosity, mixed with concern. The full truth. Jinwoo was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Taemin, who nodded encouragingly. My name is Jinwoo Park, he began. 6 years ago, I was a captain in the Human Stellar Defense Force. I commanded a special operations unit, 200 soldiers stationed at Hydra Station. Hae-young's mandibles clicked. Hydra Station. That was listed as a minor territorial dispute with the Krill Imperium, resolved through diplomatic channels. That's the official story, Jinwoo said quietly. The truth is different. The Krill sent a war fleet, 50 ships, 10,000 soldiers. They wanted to test humanity's resolve, to see if we were as weak as the galactic community believed. Hydra Station was just a research outpost with a few hundred civilians. Easy target, Sora leaned forward. But you were there. My unit was rotating through for security duty. When the Krill attacked, we couldn't evacuate. They jammed all communications, blocked every escape route. So we had to choices surrender and let them massacre the civilians or fight. You fought, Hae-young said. Jin-Woo nodded. For 6 weeks, 200 soldiers against 10,000. We turned that station into a nightmare. Every corridor was a trap. Every room, a killing ground. We used everything: the stations, systems, improvised weapons, psychological warfare. The Krill kept sending troops, and we kept finding ways to stop them. How? Sora asked. The numbers. Because humans are good at one thing, Jinwoo said, and there was something dark in his voice. We're good at survival. We're good at making impossible choices. And we're very, very good at violence when we need to be. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. The Krill didn't understand what they were fighting. They thought of war as honorable combat, clear rules, established tactics. We didn't follow their rules. We fought dirty. We fought smart. We fought like animals backed into a corner with nothing left to lose. The siege lasted 6 weeks, Taemin added quietly, and by the end, only 12 of Jinwoo's soldiers survived. But they'd killed over 4,000 Krill warriors and disabled half their fleet. The Krill retreated, claiming equipment failures. Hae-young processed this. 4,000 with 200 soldiers. That's 20-1, Jinwoo confirmed. And it broke us. Every single one of us. When the relief forces finally arrived, they found 12 humans covered in blood, most of it not their own, sitting in a station that looked like something from a horror story. We'd turned an entire research facility into a weapon. Why did the governments cover it up? Sora asked. Because it scared them, Jinwoo said simply. The Krill are a warrior race, feared across dozens of systems. Humanity was supposed to be weak, barely able to defend ourselves. When word got out about what 12 humans did to 4,000 Krill, questions would be asked. Dangerous questions. Like, what could humanity do if we ever decided to stop being peaceful? He turned back to face them. So both sides agreed to bury it. The Krill because admitting defeat to weak humans would destroy their military reputation. Humanity because we didn't want every aggressive species in the galaxy seeing us as a threat. Easier to keep pretending we're harmless. And you? Hae-young asked. What happened to you? They gave us new identities and scattered us across the galaxy. Most of my surviving unit took the deal gratefully. We'd seen things, done things that we wanted to forget. I ended up here, on the Celestial Dawn, trying to learn how to be a person again instead of a weapon. The room fell silent. Hae-young's mind was racing. Everything she'd thought about humans, about Jinwoo specifically, had been wrong. Not just wrong inverted. She'd dismissed him as weak, when he was probably one of the most dangerous individuals on the ship. She'd treated him with contempt when he deserved respect. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Sora asked gently. Jinwoo smiled sadly. "Because I didn't want to be that person anymore." Captain Jinwoo Park, the ghost of Hydra Station. Human who turned a research station into a graveyard. That person did terrible things. He was good at killing. Too good. And when the battle finally ended, he realized he didn't know how to stop. He sat back down, suddenly looking exhausted. "Being a mechanic saved my life. It gave me purpose that didn't involve hurting people. It let me build things instead of breaking them. For 3 years, I was genuinely happy. I was useful without being deadly. I was respected for fixing things, not for how efficiently I could kill." Hae-young felt something uncomfortable in her chest. "Shame. I treated you poorly. You treated me like your culture taught you to treat workers," Jinwoo said without anger. "I don't hold it against you." "You should," Hae-young insisted. She stepped forward and then did something that shocked everyone in the room. She lowered herself into a position of submission. All 4 arms extended, the highest form of apology in Xylothon culture. "I judged you without knowledge. I insulted you without cause. I am ashamed." Jinwoo looked uncomfortable. "Officer Hae-young, you don't need to, I do," she interrupted, rising. "You possess qualities my people claim to value: courage, tactical genius, the willingness to sacrifice for others. Yet I dismissed you as worthless because you chose peace over violence. I was wrong, deeply wrong." Phra's body pulsed with warm colors. "Jinwoo, I have a proposition. The security team needs better training. Our tactics were clearly inadequate against the pirates. Would you consider serving as a security advisor?" Jinwoo shook his head. "Thank you, Captain, but no. I'm a mechanic. That's who I want to be." "But your skills are available if the ship needs them," Jinwoo finished. "But I won't make violence my job again. I can't. It would undo everything I've worked for these past 3 years." He paused. "However, I'm willing to train your security team. Tactical doctrine, asymmetric warfare, creative problem solving. Not as their commander, but as a consultant. In my off-duty hours," Hae-young spoke up, "I would be honored to learn from you." Jinwoo looked at her with surprise. "You want me to teach you? A Xylothon warrior?" "I want to learn from someone who can defeat 10 times his number through strategy instead of strength," Hae-young said. "That is true warfare. Not just honorable combat, but survival against impossible odds. My people could benefit from such knowledge." A small smile crossed Jinwoo's face. "All right, I can work with that." Sora's body flashed with satisfaction. Then it settled. "Jinwoo remains our mechanic, but will assist with security training. Is there anything else we should know?" Jinwoo stood, preparing to leave. "Just one thing. What I told you today about Hydra Station, my real identity, it doesn't leave this room. The rest of the crew doesn't need to know. Let me go back to being just a mechanic who happened to get lucky against some pirates." "That's not how the crew sees it," Taemin said with a slight smile. "They're already calling you a hero." "I'm not a hero," Jinwoo said firmly. "Heroes don't have nightmares about the people they've killed. Heroes don't wake up in cold sweats remembering the faces of enemies they've cut down. I'm just someone who survived by being willing to do what others couldn't." He moved toward the door. "And now, if you'll excuse me, there's a coolant leak on Deck 3 that needs attention." As he left, Hae-young followed him out. In the corridor, she called his name. He stopped and turned. "Why do humans hide your strength?" she asked. "Your species could command respect across the galaxy. Instead, you let others think you're weak." Jinwoo considered the question. "Because we've learned something that most warrior species haven't. The strongest position isn't the one where everyone fears you. It's the one where everyone underestimates you until the moment they need you. Then you become indispensable instead of just dangerous." Hae-young struggled for words. "That's brilliant. And terrifying." "That's humanity," Jinwoo said with a shrug. "We're good at being underestimated. We've had a lot of practice." Weeks passed. The celestial dawn continued its routes, and life returned to normal. Ginwoo went back to his maintenance duties, working in engineering, fixing systems, covered in grease and grime. But now when Hae-young passed him in the corridors, she stopped to ask his opinion on security matters. When new crew members arrived, the veterans quietly warned them to treat the human mechanic with respect. One day, a fresh security recruit from a warrior species sneered at Ginwoo in the mess hall. "Look at the human, covered in grease like a common laborer. How weak." Hae-young appeared beside the recruit instantly. That common laborer defeated 40 pirates with 10 volunteers. He turned this ship into a weapon using nothing but his mind. He holds knowledge of warfare that would make your military commanders weep with envy. She leaned closer to the recruit. "And he chooses to fix our engines instead of breaking our enemies. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen." The recruit apologized immediately. Jinwoo, overhearing the exchange, just smiled and went back to his meal. That evening, in the quiet of engineering, Jinwoo worked on repairing a damaged power coupling. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, tools clicking and humming. This was his peace. This was his purpose. Tae-min found him there, as he often did. "You know, the whole crew looks at you differently now." "I know," Ginwoo said, without looking up. "Can't help that." "Does it bother you?" Ginwoo set down his tools and considered. "Less than I thought it would. Maybe because I finally understand something. I was trying to run from who I was, pretending that person never existed. But that's not healing. That's just hiding. And now I accept that I'm both people. I'm the soldier who did terrible things to save lives. And I'm the mechanic who fixes things to help people. Both are real. Both are me." Picked up his tools again. "The difference is, I get to choose which one I am most of the time. And I choose this." Taemin smiled. "That's growth, Captain Jinwoo." "Just Jinwoo," he corrected gently. "The other name belongs to someone I used to be. Someone I learned from, but not someone I need to be anymore." Above them, the celestial dawn sailed through the darkness of space, carrying its crew of thousands toward whatever adventures awaited. And in its engine rooms and maintenance tunnels, a human mechanic worked quietly, keeping the systems running, fixing what was broken, building instead of destroying. Just a mechanic. Nothing more, except when it mattered.